episode 4 of Extend Explained Badly. Mommy said today is about something called orchestrations. I don't know what that is, but she said it's important, so grab your bows and let the games begin.
Hi, and welcome to the Orchestration Games. I found it so fitting to have my 8-year-old introduce this topic because nothing will make orchestrate less intimidating than a child sincerely asking if I'm playing computer games during work hours. I am proud to announce that Orchestrate no longer has me in a chokehold, and I am here today to help you take your power back too. So let's start small. What the heck even is an orchestration? Well, friend, you are the game master. You get to decide the rules and what happens next by customizing a series of steps to get your desired results. An orchestration is just the tool you use to control the who, what, when, where, whatever of the game. And why do we even need to bother, right? Yeah, that's the question I tried to avoid myself. I thought, I can just do everything in the PMT and I never have to learn this like orc ogre thingy. But that wasn't the case, friends. I was doing myself a huge disservice and I was doing my users a disservice, the ones who are actually using my apps. Because the truth is, they're fast and they can bring a lot of separate things together and perform actions much quicker than the PMD. Remember, the PMD has that 24-second page load timeout. So we should probably be using the product that was designed to make things faster. And it really is a game changer when it comes to performance. So, how do we access this power within us? Let me show you the way. So there's a few different ways you can get into Orchestration Builder. So here in your developer site, you've opened up your app. Right here in this overview tab, you can see the orchestrations area and you're able to add a new one this way. You can also go ahead and open an app builder. If you don't know what app builder is, please go back to episode 1. I do talk about app builder there. But in that first episode, so I'm over here on the left panel. And I had clicked on orchestrations down here in the panel, and I said, no, not today. We're not doing it. She deserves her own episode. And here we are at her very own episode. So here is where you can see a list of orchestrations that you have, and you can add a new one. When you click add a new orchestration, this is the page that pops up and you are basically being asked what kind of orchestration do you want to build? And if you're over there like, I don't know, like I need to do this thing because somebody told me I need to do this thing. We're going to break it down and go through each of these. So up here we have two options, synchronous and asynchronous. Whoa, big words. What do they mean? Okay, synchronous is when you want to be able to get an immediate response. So you have put input into it and you want something to come out and you're having your user wait for that response. So this is best for smaller use cases, immediate actions. Because if you are calling on a response from a synchronous orchestration, maybe in the next page of your flow, you still have to be within that 24-second time limit. So these are definitely not the one to choose if you are trying to process a lot of data. Now let's go to the one that you would want to choose for that. So an asynchronous orchestration is like your background processing. Your user does not have to sit there and wait for a response. They can click the button and it can go do its own thing. The orchestration can go have fun, whatever, that's its business. And then the user can come back later and see if said things were done. So those are the two here at top, and then moving down, you have your requests from Workday. So you can actually trigger an orchestration to perform extra steps from a business process or an integration system within your tenant. So with the business process, if you have any experience configuring BPs, then you can actually add a service step and call on your orchestration from that step. And then with the integration system, so you have an integration that is communicating with an external party from your tenant, you can also trigger an orchestration to happen based on when that integration system is triggered. So these are the different templates, if you will, of orchestration types that you can choose from. We're just going to click one so that we can get into Orchestration Builder. I don't know why my dark mode is not on. There we go. Okay, so now we are in Orchestration Builder. And there is a lot going on here, but I think that Workday has done a fabulous job of making it look like not a lot is going on here. But because there is, this episode will be a two-parter. Do not fear, my friends. We are going to break it all down. So let's start by starting with the basic navigation of Orchestration Builder. So if you see my swirling pink spotlight here, we're going to follow it up to the left side of the page, up here in this top left corner. So here we have three icons. This first one is our orchestrations panel. It is a list of all of the orchestrations and sub-orchestrations within our app and the ability to click the plus sign to add a new one. If you click this plus sign, you are given these two options. If you start from scratch, it will again give you those different templates you can choose from, and then the ability to name your orchestration. And if you were to click this import existing orchestration, you can actually access orchestrations across all of your apps. So here in this first drop down, you can go through all of the different apps that you have. Maybe you have an orchestration that you spent hours on already, and the problem you're trying to solve today is pretty similar to the one that you solved in that other app. So you can actually click and import that orchestration and customize it to this app's needs. I absolutely love this feature. It's newer and it is my favorite. Um, so then we move down to our components panel. Now, this is why this episode is a two-parter. These are what I like to call the main characters of your game. You are going to learn about what each of these do. I think the important thing here for this part is to know that you are given different options based on what template you choose. So if I am inside of an async org, and I go back to that components panel, I have extra options here. I have this send Workday RAS request, which I didn't see when I was inside asynchronous orchestration. And see, it's not there. So you will have different options, and we will talk through all of these main characters in part two. And then the third icon is our search icon, the ability to search for anything within your org builder. Moving down to the bottom left, we have our keyboard shortcuts. If you literally refuse to use a mouse, we have a cute little announcements area. Workday does amazing at communicating any sort of updates or new features everywhere within our meetings, within the products, all of it. So that is where you can access and read about those. We also have this like function library. And this is really cool because these are all of the different things that you can do with your data. So they all come with a description of what they do and then their output. So it could be a string, a number, a Boolean. This is highly useful when you are actually within each step and you are needing to solve a problem down in the rabbit hole that you are going to go through as you configure the steps. And then lastly, we have light mode and dark mode. Moving down to the bottom panel, we have build logs. So in episode one, I talked about how I like to reference a build as a giant present, right? So this is a box of all of the components and thingy-majiggies that you have done in Org Builder, thrown in a box, wrapped with a pretty bow that you get to deploy to your development tenant as one build. So this is your entire build. If you go to deploy and you get a build failed, this is the log that you would go to see what component has failed you or let you down. Then we have our run logs. So just like an app builder, you can add custom logging into your orchestration, and you can actually search for those logs by name to see what their output is as you're working through your troubleshooting. Now we're moving to the bottom right of our page and we have our validate button. So just like an app builder, this validate button will go through all of the things that you have done in Org Builder, and it will make you aware of any warnings or errors that you need to pay attention to or fix and where they live. Now we are going to move up to the top right corner of the page. So here we have the Save All to App Hub, and let me see if I can make these buttons show us something else. Oh, it's just going to be gray for each one, isn't it? Okay, well, we have the Save All to App Hub button, and then we have this Build button. So this Build button can sometimes say deploy or building. Right now, it just says build because I had previously deployed before starting this recording. But Save All to App Hub will save any changes that you have made to the developer site. And then the Deploy Building button is the act of actually creating that build to deploy into your development tenants. I think you can actually, yeah, you can, when you click it, you can see and you can redeploy. And then we have this play button. So let me hit redeploy so that we can ungray this play button. You kind of see what that does. So now we have redeployed and we're going to hit play. This is where you can actually run your orchestration and see if it is doing what you wanted it to do. And yes, that is absolutely the data set that I wanted my response to return. And then down here, we have a global error handler. So you have the ability to customize your error messaging in here. So this is your global one, your overall catch-all error type handler, but you also have local error handlers on each step that you have inside of your orchestration. And then we have the revisions list. So here's all the changes that you might have made in Orchestration Builder and the ability to revert them. And then we have our settings panel. So let me go to a different orchestration type so you can see all of the options. So let's go to an async. Okay. That was just one extra option I wanted to make sure was in here. But okay, so here in the orchestration tab, we have the name of the orchestration. We have the ability to add in localities for different languages, our security domains, and then our API URL if we are wanting to call information from this orchestration in other areas of our life. Then we have credentials. This is who and how we are giving people permissions to run this orchestration, to run the actions within it. Here, if you have an ISU that you want to run those API calls in your orchestration, you can configure that here and then call on it inside of the API call steps. Here we have the XML namespaces. So if you've worked with like SOAP APIs or like the Workday web services, then you have seen that XML is not the prettiest code to read. You can actually define those like URI paths here and value and then give it a name and key. And it's just a much cleaner way to call on those like X paths inside of your orchestration steps. And then we have app attributes. If you don't know what an attribute is, please go to episode 1 where we go through App Builder. An attribute is basically a tenant specific field. So if you have configured any of those inside of your app, you'll actually be able to see them here in app attributes and call on them inside of your orchestration steps if you desire to. Then we have HTTP polling and HTTP retries. So polling is like, say you walk to your neighbor's house and you knock on their door and you're like, hey, is there any pie? I love your pie. Do you have any? And they're like, no, sorry, come back later. And so maybe 10, 20 minutes later, knock, knock, knock. Is there any pie now? And they're like, yeah, here you go. So polling is like coming back to see if there's any updates. And you can schedule that at regular intervals to come back and try to get any sort of new data or updates. And then retries is like if maybe one of your API calls has failed and you've gotten a 400 response and you want the orchestration to automatically retry that call again without your user having to start over, you having to click the button again, whatever. Just, if we're getting that kind of response, go ahead and retry it automatically. And Workday has default options for these retries, and then you can create a custom one to fit your needs as well. And then lastly, we have CSV formats. So CSV stands for comma separated values. It's like an Excel spreadsheet, but more like plain. It's just like text and commas, and they're separated by commas. It's a really good name for it. So if you are using a CSV to input a whole bunch of data, you can actually configure that CSV input here. So that is our settings area. And then let me just open one of these steps so I can show you some more options that we have. So when you open one of your steps, you get a bit more extra options. So here we have this create group option. If aesthetically you just want to organize all of your steps and make it look cleaner, you can hit create group, add things into the group, and then you would be able to expand and collapse it as needed to make it a bit easier to navigate through those bigger orchestration builds. And then we have the ability to add a description to each step. We can go full screen and we can close out of it completely. And then also notice we have these two icons over here on the top right. We have a pencil and we have a ladybug. The pencil means you are in editing mode and the ladybug means you are in debug mode. So here in debug mode, you can actually log into a tenant and you can hard code or manually input the input for this step and then run it and make sure it's giving you what you need before you move on to the next step. This is also a new feature and it's really cool and really helpful. So that is the gist of Orc Builder. I am going to have links in the comments to different documentation that has helped me learn Orchestrate, the Workday web services, and more learning tutorials, because the developer forum has like step-by-step orchestration tutorials with zip files, and those are really, really helpful as well. So please check the comments for those helpful links to save to your favorites. And I will see you in part 2 where we start talking about all of these main characters. So I'll see you there.
Orchestration. I said about. I said about. About. Okay. I said bow. I didn't do the thing. Bow. Okay. Let's start. Boom. No, disappear. You get. I feel like I should do that one more time. I did horrible. Wow. Hi, mommies. Oh, I didn't ever. Hand move. Said 4 of extend, explained. Why? My teacher. Why do I keep trying to say response? Why is it so nerve-wracking?
I thought you knew.